Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Faith Family Focus. I am one of your co-hosts, Faith Suggs, a Duke Women's basketball graduate, currently director of basketball operations at Long Island University in Brooklyn, and also social media manager and 7 billion other things apparently these days. This wonderful man is my father, Shafer Suggs, former NFL player with the New York Jets, who just lost this weekend, the Cincinnati Bengals, and also served on the as a VP and the executive board for an NFLPA of Chicago. Good morning, Shafer. How are you?
Good morning. Well, you just reminded me of our difficult opening day against the Buffalo Bills. But we always struggle with the Bills for some reason. But hopefully they turn it around. It's early in the season.
Someone told me that being a New York Jets fan is kind of like not allowed. Like I'm starting to learn that like they're like the ones that get beat up. Them and the Mets. Is that something I'm not knowing? Did I move to New York and not get the memo?
Wow, it's changed. I tell you what. Yeah, we were always somewhat stepchildren of because the New York Giants, football Giants, were kind of the team first, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
Jets came along. Actually, Jets was called the Titans, and then they were in the old AFC. So we're kind of trying to catch up, and that didn't really catch up until Joe Namath predicted the Super Bowl win in 1968, 69. They won the Super Bowl, and that kind of changed everything. But you probably are right. Now that they are not actually in New York, or they're in New Jersey, sharing a stadium with the New York Giants, they probably still are the stepchildren. And of course, the fact that we're not winning uh, doesn't
Never.
help the matter anyway. Never.
Never. Never. It's been a terrible childhood growing up as this. It's funny because I only see like two Jets fans, Jets jerseys like a month. So, and I'm in Brooklyn, so, and I don't really see football's crazy. It's back. So maybe I'll see more jerseys, but I highly doubt that I'll see that Kelly green and white.
So you are in Brooklyn. Do you see now that football has started? Are you seeing any of the football jerseys, people, any excitement around the NFL yet? No, huh?
You gotta remember, we're still. There hasn't been a game here. I think there hasn't been a
No.
game. The Giants haven't started, I believe. And it's not like people can go to the games. Um, and even when I was here prior a year ago, when we weren't in a pandemic, there really wasn't much excitement. But Brooklyn is kind of like off in its own little borough.
Right,
So
right.
um, no, I have not seen a dang thing. It's
Wow.
almost like football has not existed. Still crazy. Do you think it's gonna make it through a season?
Well, I think they're doing a good job. I mean, I watched the game, and I think they did a good job of just focusing on the game. And I think they did what the NBA did with the fans. I think they were virtual fans. They kind of gave it excitement, and I guess they're piping in noise. But the games itself, I was very surprised on how sharp they looked. I mean, you can tell that they were crisp. I mean, you got to understand that they didn't have any preseason games. And normally, these teams have 4 to 6 preseason games
Scrimmages.
for the season. So, I mean, the Saints look pretty good. I know that Brady struggled yesterday with this new team, but it was nice.
Is
It's
is
weird.
is Tom gonna figure it out? You think?
He'll figure it out. I mean, he needs more weapons. He needs some of those intermediate receivers that he had with the Patriots, and Gronowski get himself back in the groove. The big tight end, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I think one thing I heard interesting discussion when he first had left and gone to Tampa Bay. It was who was the mastermind? Was it Belichick or was it Brady? And now we're kind of seeing the test come, and we kind of get the answers now. It's very interesting. We'll see in 6 games, and we'll all come back and talk about it. But was it the discipline of the Patriots that made them so great, or was it Tom Brady?
Well, I say this all the time, Faith. Um, Tom Brady is great. Um, Belichick is great, but them together, they were unbeatable.
Yeah.
They're unbeatable. It was a great combination. Belichick is the best coach I've ever witnessed. I mean, he has done a good job of maintaining his core values. I mean, he had a lot of different types of players come to his team, and they kind of followed his lead. And he has obviously been obviously winning You know,
Easy for him.
it's easy for him, right? So I like him. I mean, I remember when I was playing, he was an assistant coach. You heard about Belichick, tough coach, disciplined coach, but so he's been around for a long time.
It's funny they say that sometimes if you're in the hallway with him and you're passing and it's just two of you in the hallway, he won't say hello. He'll just
Yeah,
keep
yeah, I've heard that about him.
so focused on his. But some people are that way. We've all played for people who can just
Mm-hmm.
super social, and some people aren't. But no, I mean, I think it's exciting. I think that Belichick's kind of showing that his embracing of Cam Newton and the way New England's embracing Cam Newton, because Cam Newton is a great quarterback. So I'm
Yeah,
excited. Definitely a Cam Newton fan. Especially when I was in Carolina for a long time, they loved Cam Newton. So
yeah.
I'm excited for Cam Newton. I'm excited for the Patriots for the first time ever to see kind of how he does.
We don't think the a good coach, a great coach, adapts to his talent without losing who he is as a coach. And he has been able to do that over the last 25, 30 years. And it's a witness to the number of Super Bowls he's had and the number of players that have played.
Right.
And you become a better football player when you play for the Patriots. As much as I hated the Patriots when I played them, and it's a big rivalry between the Jets and the Patriots, you knew that you're in a football game with them. And there's a level of sophistication because of Belichick. It's always been off the charts. Off the charts. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this: what was you watched a little bit? I know we're going to touch on another topic today, but what was your reaction to the unity, different signs of unity within the league over this weekend?
I still don't know what the NFL is doing, but it's pretty cool, like their plans and everything. I'm looking forward to see how it continues on throughout the season. They have a lot of symbols on their helmets. College teams are doing the same. I watched Duke play Notre Dame the other day, and they had symbols on their helmets. So that's exciting for me. Each player has a message that they want to support, similar to the NBA bubble. It's exciting. I think it's cool. We all know how the NFL is. It's kind of a country club personality type run organization. So I support it. I'm excited to see mostly where it goes. I think that's really what I'm interested in seeing. Definitely not surprising at all on the reception that they received in Kansas City.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that. That portion of the fans that booed.
It's all right. Yeah, everyone's a right to their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, don't you think it's still disrespectful if you're booing during?
Exactly. But they were doing toward the show of unity, right?
But completely disregarding the entire anthem in general.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a double standard. It's almost that statement, "Shut up and play," right? Just if people, there's that certain portion of people that are going to be unhappy about anything that put in front of them, and that was disheartening. But then you heard a lot of cheers after that sign of unity. You have these players, black players, white players coming together in the middle of the field, and using this as a platform.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope, like you said earlier, I hope that they continue on with the narrative. It's important. As much as people some people are not comfortable with it, it still needs to be a part of us going forward.
Yeah, it's different. It's change. It can't hurt, right? Just to try new things and try to figure it out and how it's receptive. A lot of stadiums are setting up a lot of support for voting, etc. So it's great. A lot of conversation is being started. And I think this is an important time. Obviously, it seems like things have died down, but in lots of part of the country is still moving, still happening. The other day I saw in Michigan that a police officer was fired, and they showed the video, and he just was extremely over aggressive. But this had not been his first or second offense.
Right.
In front of his kids.
Yeah, there's so much going on, man. I woke up this morning, man. I say my prayers, and allow God to lead me out the door. But then, unfortunately, I had the news on. So you have the fires, you have the rallies, you have all
People
this stuff going on. You have the hurricane. It's like, man, what is going on here?
a pandemic.
Pandemic.
It's funny because it's like what 2020 is like that one person that like constantly tries to one up everybody else. That's what I keep saying. It's just like, well, what about this? Let's. I saw a fire tornado the other day. It's crazy, and I really our prayers are with. I know I have a lot of friends who are on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Um, it's crazy.
Prayers do go out to those families. It's something that it is unfortunate, and again, it points toward global warming and being able to address that. A lot of too much is going on right now.
The money took away from it.
Yeah,
But yeah, so no, this is exciting. I think there's so much to going on that we have a lot to talk about. Just to remind people that we're F3. We are welcoming those who are new. Send us a wave, say hello, good morning. Those of our regulars normally know what to do. Our goal is to use our story and our faith to strengthen the family core of our viewers and those around us. So we appreciate you guys joining us. We have a website, faithfamilyfocus.net, blogs, bios, all the videos you haven't seen. But today is our 51st episode. Jeez. This show is going to be led by Shafer Suggs because he brought this topic to me and he really likes it, so I'm really excited for it.
Well, thank you, Faith. You've done a wonderful job, and I know that the viewers need to understand how valuable and how important you are to this show. You actually write most of the storyboards. We collectively come up with most of the topics we get together. I mean, and there's sometimes we'll go into a week without really knowing, but we have so many episodes that once in a while we feel that it's a good idea to do a rerun. We've done that a lot, and we're actually looking at possibly separating season one. We're at season one. We're going to probably have season two. There are some things that we are looking at. Possibly, we've been approached about possibly being on the network. So for our viewers, that's in the making. There's a possibility that our show can actually go on a network, which would be really fantastic. That would be once a week. So keep your ears and eyes open for that as we continue to move down this path. It's been a great journey. I never even imagined that we would be at this point, Faith. But the point is, you're getting ready to get really busy time of the year. It's basketball time. You are the social media manager, but your biggest role is director of basketball operations, and you kind of make everything go. You're kind of the glue that keeps things together, and so we're going to be trying to balance your workload, and so I'm going to be a little bit more active in making sure that we have the right topics, the right guests, and I just thought today would be a good, with today's environment, for the old mind, talk a little bit about a topic that a lot of people I think is important, and that's in embracing who we are, embracing blackness, embracing the Black culture, and talk a little bit about that because with the Black Lives movement here, I think it's important for everyone to really understand what that means. Talk a little bit about the history of what that is. I mean, growing up, historically, you look at Black as the small letter B. Now it's the large letter B, Black culture. But growing up, we were, from slavery, we were stripped of our identity, and we had to find some relatively meaning of who we were. And so I remember being colored. I remember being a Negro. I remember the Black movement in the early '60s when we became Black. Black is proud, be Black and be proud. And then, Jesse Jackson, I wrote something, got something with Jesse Jackson, but he basically Black as a color. He says, for a long time civil rights leader, he popularized the term African American in an effort to highlight the cultural heritage of the ancestral ties to Africa. But in our conversation that we had yesterday is, not necessarily every person that has dark skin came from Africa.
Yeah.
Right? So we're at a point right now where it's so important in today's environment to kind of understand what that is and identify who we are. Because people say, well, what do you call yourself these days? We've had a fantastic show about colorism, right? You know, now let's kind of talk a little bit about what in embracing the black culture, because I wish if we, our society, embraced the black culture as much as we embrace the black race as much as we embrace the black culture, I think we'd be ahead of the game. So, my question to you, Faith, is, as we talk a little bit about this, um, how is today's current event brought a level of understanding to the importance of understanding the black culture?
Well, I think that, um, especially now with the large amount of awareness towards the Black culture, Black race, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the visibility towards the killing of Black lives regularly, and incarceration of Black lives, and just altogether just rough time,
Mm-hmm.
the intense that's behind that the Black race has in this country and even around the world, but specifically this country. I think that the world's eyes are now extremely open to a lot of blackness and a lot of broadcasting of now Black Lives Matter, right? We see our certain ads. I don't know if people notice, but now the actors in the ads are black, right? Or you have all of a sudden this black artists are being covered by Sprite, or they're trying to give more visibility to blackness, especially in this time period, because they know what's happening and that there's a movement happening and there's a rise happening and that people want to learn more. And I think that's interesting because I remember being on the show a while ago and I told you, I said, well, all we want is for people to cases to be solved and murders to be arrested and to fix our police system and stuff like that, right? We want the system, but the world and the country were like, no, we will change national anthem. No, we will ban certain bugs. It's just like all this one is great that we're getting it done. Maybe we should have done this maybe a few years ago when national anthem and Star Spangled Banner is built off of slavery. And maybe Confederate statues maybe should have already been taken down and put in a Confederate museum so we had that history, but not broadcasted on American soil. There's a lot of things that could have happened. And so with this time period, I think that now we're starting to come to the terms where now people are like, okay, now we're starting to see blackness. We're starting to see the value of it and how cool it is and how great it is to have it in line with the rest of our country. Country built on like slavery and the ownership of people. I think that the time we're in right now is super transitional and super important towards educating people on the black culture and the black race, for sure.
Yeah, I remember, and so your mom, when we started dating, was she was very white, and I'm not talking about physically white, but she grew up in a very white environment. But I remember her curiosity. I remember her talking with her grandma.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really so powerful to watch how over the years, how she was able to create a blend. So not only being married to an African American man, but having an intimate relationship with an African American woman.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a historian, and she would sit down and she would ask questions not only about your hair, but she would ask questions that evoked a lot of just really powerful. And over the years, she was able to be very transcendental and have a level of understanding. And see, that's what I'm used to. So when I convey and I have these conversations with people, I kind of understand that people are coming from a different place, but now it's constant that we have to continue to educate. We have to continue to have these conversations about it because it was confusing. If you don't know history, you
Yeah.
don't know history, you're confused.
Yeah.
So you go from colored. Okay, no, you're the colored guy. I hear it all the time. I go, well, what color is he, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
your grandmother, Holster, I loved her, but just some of the stuff that came out of her mouth, wasn't out of hatred. It was out of ignorance. It was out of not having the right lens.
And it was normal and accepted at the
It was
time.
normal and accepted, right?
So how
And
would anybody know?
exactly, exactly. So I've had visibility to that, and now we're in today's society. So me being of my age, have seen the evolution of, of how we have been identified,
Right.
and feel very comfortable with, the fact that I have a biracial daughter who identifies herself as black. You know,
Well,
I have a,
correction. I'm biracial, but I'm also black. So,
right, exactly.
yeah.
Because that's exactly what I meant. I remember you writing that letter to President Obama. That could be another topic, but I love that. But it's so important today, and so how you know you always hear that term. I don't see color. When you hear that, when I think people understand, they think that that's something that validates the fact that they're not racist, right? What does that What does that mean? How does that Talk to me a little bit about what that means and how it should be pursued going forward.
When it comes to I don't see color, and I think this is something that has been changed, is new in the last 2 or 3 years, because that was accepted um, for a long period of time, right? And it was accepted by black people because it was like they're not discriminating, right? Those people who normally said it were the ones who were, a lot of athletes who have had teammates, right? These are people who have been exposed to the black race, have black friends and family members, and they're like, we don't see color. And what they mean is that we don't see your blackness. We just see, like, you're just a friend. Like, I don't know there's a
Right.
difference. Like, we're the same, right? And here's the thing. That is 100% cool during the time period, but now as we transition and we start to educate ourselves more, we understand the beauty of difference. We understand the beauty of culture and diversity, and having different people at different tables, right? And it's wonderful because you get different stories, you get different exposure to music and art and history and dance, right? That's the best part of different cultures, right? Different cultures, having friends who are Asian descent, black descent, right? Middle Eastern descent, Caribbean descent, Latin America descent, right? There's many different kinds of people. Like, there's people are saying there's 10 billion, as someone who's half white, there's 10 billion types of white people, right? And people,
Irish, German,
Irish,
Scandinavian,
Italians
Italian,
like they're closer
Italian.
to like
Yeah.
blackness, and Irish. It's so interesting on where people try to find their way on the spectrum because of how America has treated them, and the pigmentation melanin of their skin. So when you say I don't see color, it's kind of like now you are no longer seeing the beauty of difference. You're not seeing the history of where people come from, and the stories, and the ancestors, and the greatness of where they migrated from. That is my thing. And so when people during this time period were like, well, I don't see color. And it was like, see, that's the issue. But because you don't see a black person as a black person, you're not seeing that when they walk in a room, they're immediately discriminated against because of the color of their skin, or how their name is phrased, or their last name, right? You're not seeing that they don't get opportunities as you because of a certain color of their skin. You don't see that, and because you don't see that, you can't be a great ally. You can't try to help level the playing field, right? That is my thing. So when people say I don't see color, it's time to leave that in the past, because you need to see where people come from in order to try to help people. You
I
know?
love that. Yeah, yeah. That was powerful. That was powerful. Um, so how do you, how do you change? How do you change when you meet a person for the first time? And I was sharing with you the conversation I had with my coach.
Mm-hmm.
That was an opportunity because he actually shared with me. that he disagreed with. I don't know if the acknowledgement of Black Lives Matter, but the narrative around the flag, and he didn't
Protesting. He thought the
protest.
Colin Kaepernick was protesting.
Right,
The
right,
flag.
right.
And I told you, well, technically he's wrong because Colin Kaepernick isn't protesting the flag.
Right.
Colin Kaepernick was a veteran and figured out the best way to go about respecting the flag while protesting police brutality in the process, right? That's why he kneels instead of sits, because kneeling is a sign of reverence and respect. Comparison to sitting is, sitting is compared different to kneeling. You guys kneel all the time in football, right? You don't sit on your butts because it's a sign of strength and respect. And I told you, I said, you have an opportunity to not debate, but more inform,
Right.
And make sure people they need the whole story in order to make a judgment. And we're in a time now where silence is no longer something that can work. Silence is now the very issue of why we keep dealing with this cycle of constant, continuous things of racism and issues where people aren't seeing growth and seeing moments of uncomfortableness where they can grow, right? And especially with the older generation, this is an opportunity for them to finish their lives learning, right? Like, this is time, right? Like I said, originally we said we don't see color. Okay, it's changing now. Now we see color.
Yeah.
Now we see the melting pot of what America is. It's beautiful. Now we can embrace that. So the older you get, you have two different generations, and my generation is definitely a lot more bold towards things.
Right.
And that's why they're pushing this movement so hard, and we're not seeing it disappear. But because you have to understand that we're coming back to the black is beautiful, black can be independent, black is we're coming back to that, and not in a revolutionary way, but kind of also like this is what it is, take it or leave it, right? Because there's a lot of white and other race allies embracing it, right? So we're having movement, we're having that. So you don't want, when I say that, is you can have constructive conversations with somebody and still respect them in a way where you're like, well, let me just make sure you know that this is the history behind the decision, and then you can kind of make your decision. Because if someone is, and a lot of people phrase, because they don't straight up say, I don't like it. They say, well, I just don't know if and the key thing is they started with, I just don't know. Because they don't know, right? They just are assuming from what they hear from other people or social media. And that is the hard thing about 2020 is we have so many different outlooks of information and facts, right? We don't know what the truth is, especially in this pandemic. We got 70 billion different ways to wear your mask. We have people who tell you the masks don't work. You got, right? It's all over the place, right? There's endless amounts of information. What do you believe? So when someone says, I don't know if, then they kind of state of opinion, there's a way for you to sway that opinion with constant endless information, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Just lay a foundation.
Yeah.
Well, technically, let me just let you know, and then you can make your opinion. He did consult with a veteran. He did consult with this. He went out of his way to this is a planned protest. This was not just a spur of the moment. This was planned and precise. So that is something that I think helps me with a lot of the conversations I have with a lot of people, because I'm at the point now where I don't stay silent. I say things because this is a moment for you to grow, right? At the end of the day, we're now in a time where it's like we can't be silent. Silence is just another form of an act of racism.
Right. Let's get back to now how important it is we talk about distinguishing between people of color and blackness. You know, we identify people of color. Why is it important to really focus on the narrative around blackness?
Well, the reason why black people, here's what the thing about people of color should not be used just to describe black people, because there's many different kinds of people of color, right? There's many different races that can fall into the category of people of color. So when you specifically want to talk about black people, you should say, I want to talk about the black race. If you want to talk about Asian people, I specifically want to talk about the Asian race, right? I want to talk about the white race. I want to talk about you know what I mean? Like, there's Latinx race, right? You want to make sure you have specific detail you talk about, because sometimes when we're talking about blackness, black people go through things that other people,
Yeah,
Latin people, do not go through,
right,
right? And
right.
there is a lot of things right now that are going through with Hispanic and Latin people that black people are not going through, right? We see that endlessly, especially in the last 4 years under the political reign we've had. So when you're doing that, it's kind of like you're also doing it again, where you say, I don't see color. So you're not seeing or giving people the attention they deserve for their cause and their race and their lives. That is my thing. So when you say people of color, okay, now we're broad. But if you're specifically talking about black people, say black people, the black race. If you're specifically talking about, you know what I mean? Like, just be specific. No one is going to be offended by you speaking up and saying, unless it's saying negative things, and you know what's negative. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? That's why that is my only thing, and that's something that is also new. Is people of color, the person of color. Okay, that's broad, but if I'm introducing myself, I'm a biracial person of black descent. Like, now you guys kind of understand, white, black. That is what it is, right? There's no confusion of what I am, right? And what I'm talking about and who I'm talking about. So
yeah.
that's the only thing with that. Nothing wrong with the term people of color, not at all.
Yeah, okay, I like that. So we briefly touched on it, and we've been talked about biracial. We talked about colorism, and there was a interview that I read with President Barack Obama, and he talked a little bit about um, his identification with his color, you know, being of two races, and it was very interesting. And it actually could be another show, but you also having a very strong. I remember what was you remember you wrote a letter. And I have the letter. You wrote a letter to the White House. Can you talk a
Mm-hmm.
little bit about that and what was your
Oh, yeah. So I wrote the letter. I wrote the letter. We had to write a letter for a cause to Barack Obama, to the White House, and then of course the White House sends you like a computerized response back, but it was like still teaching you how to draft a letter for something you believe in, kind of, right? Great lesson, right? Eighth grade, and I said to Barack Obama, and this was before I was still young, and you know your brain molds through time with experience and meeting people, and I said, well, why didn't you? My question is, encourage you to run as a biracial man instead of a black man and embrace everything you are, right? The history you are. And what I didn't realize is that one, Barack Obama never had to say he was a black man. Barack Obama, one, he was black enough for the black people, and he was light enough for the white people. His mom was from Kansas. He grew up in Hawaii. So Barack Obama was a unicorn of racial identity, right? He was spread like butter all
right?
over the country. And what I realized is, when it comes to politics and when it comes to selling a product, you want to adhere to all people because you want everybody to vote. And black people voted, right? Black people
Mhm.
voted, white people voted, everybody voted um, in Barack Obama and Barack Obama's campaign because of hope and because of difference, and they saw. So, and for me, as I grew, I realized, because I just wanted, as a biracial kid, to have a biracial role model. And what I realized is that I had biracial role models all over. But as you grow older, you realize that part of you is extremely oppressed, and part of you is extremely treated badly by this system. And you want to be able to stand with those people. You want to stand with that side of you. You want to support. And so if me succeeding and me doing great
Like
in my life can serve as a role as a biracial woman of black descent who can bring along the black community the best way I can, that is my goal. And that's kind of how Barack Obama was. Barack Obama was like, you know what, this isn't about how I want to identify. This is about bringing hope to the black community. And that is something he definitely did, right? A lot of people were able to pass away seeing the first black president of the United States. That was the beauty of Barack Obama and Barack Obama's presence, and still his presence, right? Because he is still very present in a lot of our political campaigns currently with Biden, but also just everything. He basically still serving, and it's beautiful. Because if I was president, I'm totally retiring. Everyone leave me alone. Like, don't call me. Michelle and I are on vacation. But yeah, that was one thing I had to learn is figure out is as I grew, I was like, you know what, like it's okay. Yes, you should always embrace everything you are because your story, your history, your culture. Like I said, seeing everything everybody is, but embracing that one side is struggling, and I have the ability and the blessing to be able to continue to boost and provide hope to one side of me. That's a great feeling, and that's really what this is all about. Like that's what I think is doing God's work, right? Right,
Mhm.
like looking out for those who need it and looking out for those who are oppressed. Because, like I've said this before, I still face my own forms of discrimination, and then I remember like I'm a little tan. Like I got to remember when I walk in places, if I wasn't so tall, would I be treated the same way? Like there's a lot of things
Yeah.
that I think about that I realize as I grow older, as Devin grow older, like we both have the same mentality, and we start to realize it's because half of us is black, and we have this mentality and these lessons in our life because of half of us is black, and so how we live our lives is pretty much predominantly because of half of us is black. So if we didn't embrace that and we didn't, use, yeah, that's what Barack Obama did. He
Yeah.
realized the hope and greatness, and he realized he didn't have to choose a side. He could just, I mean, he didn't choose a side, but he didn't have to blatantly keep saying, I'm both, I'm both, I'm both, because sometimes that can come off as we're not with you. You know what I mean? I'm not with you. I'm not in line with you. I'm in my own category, kind of thing. And you don't want that to happen.
But his relation with Michelle, his two daughters, and representing inclusion. I mean, that's what he was all about. And
Yeah.
that's why it was just so much fun. Your mom was just elated. I mean, those 8 years that he was the president. I mean, so much joy in our world. So it just this was special. But Faith, I thought this would be a really good. There's so much we can talk about. I know, but I just thought I woke up this morning. I said, let's just a lot of our topics are people just don't talk about them. And I know that you have the courage to talk about it. I know I do. Our relationship and the people that we know, we're very transcendental. We have people in all ethnicities in our lives, and I think it's on us to continue pushing this narrative and continue to talk about these type of topics on our show.
Yeah.
Not to have politics involved, but just this is really what's happening. This is what needs to be talked about.
Hmm.
And this is not our opinion. This is our experience. This is how we grew up. This is how I grew up. And it's such a joy to hear you push me, debate me. But at the end of the day, we have the same heart. I mean, I'm just a little bit further down the road, old school. And
Yep.
sometimes you pull me back and you strike some fire under me and say, okay, no, Dad, this is how, remember how you were then, right? So I
Yeah.
can't lose that momentum. I can't lose that spirit. I have to, even at my age, even at our age, as we get older, it's so important for us to embrace change.
Yeah.
And I really
Because
appreciate it.
just because you're older doesn't mean you're still not a role model. Like that is my thing with a lot of people is like your time isn't over. You still have like two other chapters of your life till you finish. Your life works in quarters. And obviously everybody comes on their own humanitarian and lifestyle on their own. Everybody has something they believe in, they fight for.
Yeah.
Um, and just I always try to stay with everything that's going on, the pandemic and how it's hit this country, how it hit this city, um, and how it's continuously impact people looking for jobs, healthcare, immigrants struggling to find healthcare, struggling to stay in this country.
Right, right.
Um, the racial tension going on right now, and hoping people are trying to move forward and try to just get opportunity. Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people who are legally here who don't have opportunity, and that is there's just so much for us to do and continue to do to try to strengthen everything for all people,
Yeah.
even the playing field for people, because just because some people are darker, they're struggling, and that is our role. Like God's purpose to put you on this life, but God's purpose is to use your voice. He would have made you mute or deaf. You have the ability, if you have those wonderful blessings and the ability to see, hear, and talk, use it, right? You were given a heart for a reason. So, no, I think this is great. We continue to have discussions, and you put little seeds in people's brains, and then you continue on like a web. And and you just hope it keeps moving and moving, and hopefully seeing an opportunity. So,
Right.
no, today was a great topic. And I think it was a great show. We'll definitely be back on Wednesday. And Friday we have an awesome show coming. So again, thank you everyone for joining us this wonderful Monday morning. Great start to the week. We'll see you on Wednesday. But thank you to Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and most importantly on Phoenix, Arizona E360 TV. Again, this is Faith Family Focus. We're going to use our faith as a vehicle to heal and sustain others on strengthening their own family core. And of course, let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love. So, everyone, wear your mask. Everyone, stay inside if you can, work from home, and try to touch someone today in the best way you can. So, everyone, have a great Monday.